And now, it's time for Healing from Within with your host, Tony Valen.
Welcome to Healing from Within. I'm your host, Tony Valen. You can contact me, tony@tonyvalen.com, or visit our website, healingfromwithin.net. Follow the show on Twitter at TVHFW. Joining us on today's show is Kimberly Lewis from the Meetup group Paranormal Science Investigations of Florida, or PSI. Kimberly is one of the lead investigators in the well-known paranormal group Skyway Paranormal. You can learn more about PSI, that's P as in Paul, SI, by going to meetup.com/paranormal science investigations. Or you can email Kimberly directly, casemanager@skywayparanormal.net. Like Skyway Paranormal on Facebook and follow Skyway Paranormal on Twitter at SkywayPara. Kimberly, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Tony.
Thank you. So let's get started. What do you do and how did this journey for you begin?
Wow, that's a loaded, long question. I'll try to give you the short answer. Really interesting. As a young child, I was an only child, and I had a couple interesting things that happened to me when I was younger. Things that I couldn't quite explain. I don't know if that time I would call them paranormal. I don't know if I would call them scary. They were just events that occurred. And it got me thinking as I grew into adolescence and then into adulthood. I started thinking about it more and more and more. And one of the questions that I think is on everybody's mind, or a lot of people have a question too, is what happens after we pass? Is there life after death? And if there is, what does that mean? So about 20 years ago is when I actually started on the journey of reading and looking at things that had to do with so-called paranormal or things other than normal. And then as I got a little bit older and people started passing around me, it just became more and more interesting to me, which brings us up to where we are now. And I spent a lot of time out of the country. Finally, I'm back here in the States, which is fantastic. So I have this opportunity to be with this phenomenal group, which is Skyway Paranormal, which is run by Tom Watchman. He is the leader and founder of the group, and he does a phenomenal job. And when we get a chance to go out and investigate and do exactly that, try to gain evidence and try to find things that are other than normal. We're the ones running into the dark houses when everybody's running out.
Wow, yeah. So you going out of the country, did that have to do with paranormal stuff or just life in general?
It didn't. No, sir, it didn't. It actually had to do with my husband's position. It took us out of the country twice, which was wonderful because I got to experience some wonderful things in Europe, and I was also in the Middle East. So I had an opportunity to experience some wonderful times. But within those times, I never quite lost focus. I would always ask people, especially when we lived in England. We lived in England for 3.5 years. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of a paranormal hotspot, so to speak. There's houses you walk down the street that are 600 and 700 years old, or, from the Elizabethan times. And there's real Tudor homes that have been occupied for 400 years. So you can only imagine the amount of people that came through that. I always said if these walls could just talk, I would love to hear what they have to say. But it's the interesting part of that is having the opportunity to talk to people who live around this all the time, and everybody has a story. And the Middle East is no different, except they don't talk about it quite as much. But there definitely is a belief system there also, just like in Western culture, of something that is other than normal.
Wow, yeah. So while you were out and about in other countries, I take it you did experience a lot of paranormal stuff?
Well, I'll tell you, when we lived in England, there's a feeling that you get, and we all have this feeling. I'm originally from New Jersey. I went to college in Temple University in Philadelphia. And it's, it has a reputation of being a tough city, and it is, and you get, I call it like that spidey sense, that cop sense. I'm not a police officer, but it's that gut feeling that you get. And you would walk into one home that would be perfectly fine, and this is in England specifically, that would be perfectly fine, and you would walk to the house next door. You would start talking to the people, and you would start to get a sense, and then the stories would come. And you would find out that this house next door that looked very similar was maybe 40, 50 years old, but was done in the same style of the house that was 100, 200, 300 years old. And the feeling was just different. And it's kind of like the walls absorb it, the floors absorb it. And I still get those feelings every once in a while when I walk into a place. And it doesn't happen all the time, and that's a good thing. It shouldn't happen all the time. But every once in a while you get a sense, and you think to yourself, I probably should either be invited back, ask to be invited back, or pull out a recorder so I can start recording in this place, because you get that feeling that something's going on.
Absolutely. And when someone is requesting an investigation from you guys, how do you begin the investigation? Walk us through the process.
Sure, Tony. It is not a quick process. What happens is Tom Watchman, who is the lead investigator, and he's also the case manager for the group Skyway Paranormal. It will go into that email that you, case manager at skywayparanormal.com that you mentioned earlier, and we'll get it. We'll get it immediately, and we don't let things go by. We will get back to people within 24 to 48 hours. We look at what people have to say on the email. We email them back, or if they have a phone number, we'll call them back, and we'll talk to them. And we'll ask them a series of questions. What have you been experiencing? When did this start? Did it ever happen before? And the process can be quite lengthy. I have to be really honest with you. Not everybody is on the up and up when they call a paranormal investigative team. So you have to be very, very careful. There's key questions we ask, and we read people, and we hear how people are speaking. And once about 25 to 30 questions are asked, and we're satisfied that they need our help, which we are happy to provide, then what we'll do is we'll set up an opportunity to meet them outside of the home or the business that they are having an issue with. And we'll talk to them a little bit more. So everybody's sort of on neutral ground. We get a better feel for them, and they get a feel for us. It's kind of like buying a car, in a way, to use a bad analogy, but you have to feel comfortable with the people that you're going to invite into your home, and we're very sensitive to that. We realize that we are going to be brought into people's domains, their homes, their sanctuaries, and their businesses, and this is where they have their livelihood. So we're very sensitive to that. Once we meet with them and we talk to them, we'll ask them a series of questions again. And then at that point, we will set up a time to do a pre-investigation, which means we'll go in and we will talk to them at their home or business or wherever the activity seems to be occurring. And we'll do a precursory sweeps, or what they call them. We'll take our equipment and we'll get baseline readings of the house with some of our equipment, just so we know what it looks like on this day and at this time. At that same time, we also will be noting barometric pressure. We'll be noting what's going on with the weather, anything that may change from the time that we do this first walkthrough to the time that we go to do a full-on investigation. When and if they feel that a full-on investigation is needed, or if we talk to them and we say, we're getting some interesting stuff, we'd like to come back, or if you'd like to have us back, we're happy to do so. One thing that we never ever do to a client is tell them anything that we may find in that moment. We're great believers in the scientific process of the way we do things. Mm-hmm. You just don't jump to conclusions. You have to go back and you have to look at your readings, and you have to look at any of your photography that you may have taken, the photographs, any of your digital recordings you may have had, and then you can start to draw some conclusions and then be able to talk to the client about things that we found. That's on the precursory one. When we go back to do a full investigation, we spend a lot of time. Again, we're very sensitive to the fact that this is people inviting us into their home and business, and we can be there for 6, 7, 8 hours, depending on how big the home is and what kind of activity is occurring.
Yeah. And you mentioned that you give them a series of questions. In your opinion, what's one of the questions that would seal the deal for you and say, hey, this person is real, we need to help?
Well, without a doubt, and I know this sounds cliche, I am a mom, but if children are involved and children and a mother and a family is stressed, and we ask some questions such as, when did this start? Is the child talking to someone? Has the child experienced seeing anything? That sort of seals the deal with us with kids immediately. We want to get in there and help a family to the best of our possible ability to answer any questions, and to answer any questions that scientifically that we can show them. We have some really smart people on this team, and they're from all walks of life, from all different backgrounds, and they bring a lot to the table. So what I might see, someone might not, but with someone who has more of a science background, I mean, truly a science as a scientist, they may come from a different perspective. And if we can come to sort of the same conclusion, then that's how we start to tell families what we've found. We do present evidence at the end of a case within 2 weeks, and then we follow that up also with phone calls for 2 weeks after that to make sure that everything's okay. But to seal the deal is definitely anything involving children. When we ask these parents, you can oftentimes hear real fear and trepidation in people's voices, especially from a father who says, I know how to protect my daughter or my son from anything, except I don't know how to protect them from this. And that sends up flags, and we jump on that quickly.
Yeah. When you go on these investigations, you go on as a team. What? How many people go to this investigation, and what are their functions?
Well, there's a total of 17 of us in the team, but 17 do not go on an investigation. Our team lead, Tom, as I mentioned before, is the gentleman who makes those decisions of who will be going on each investigation, since we all bring something different to the plate. I worked at 2 U.S. embassies, so I have in the regional security office, so I have a little bit more of an investigative background, where we have a gentleman by the name of Rusty, who's the tech manager. That's his position, and investigator. He knows how to work this equipment. He knows if there's grounding problems. I mean, we all get used to things like that, but he's really the subject matter expert in that. We have a gentleman named David. He's the lead investigator. His wife, Tina, she's also an investigator and a photographer. Myself, I do investigations, and I do the public relations for the group. We have Marcy, who does social media. She's an investigator. Laura, treasurer. Betsy, we have a medium that we work with from time to time, depending on what the family's requests are. We have Paul, Debbie, Annie, Matthew, Joan, Christy, Tracy, and 2 investigators in training, Michael and Christy. And all of us serve a function. So to answer your question in a roundabout way, there's usually a team of 4 to 6 maximum out of the 17 of us going on any particular case. It just depends on what is needed. If the medium is needed, we don't necessarily use her right at the investigation. We may be on the phone with her, and she may say something which has actually happened to Tom, which I find very interesting, since I'm very skeptical and science-oriented. She told him to walk down a hallway, turn right, go into the second bedroom on the left, and there'll be a box on the shelf, and open it, and what you need to see is in there. Well, she had never been in this home before.
Wow.
It's things like that that make me go, So we all serve a function and a purpose, and I go out on many, many investigations with Tom. As a matter of fact, I've done most of the investigations with Tom since I've joined the group because of my investigative background, which is I'm sort of the eyes and the ears, and I am skeptical, so I watch for things that are natural. I don't automatically jump to the conclusion of it's paranormal. I look for the turning on of the refrigerator, or for a light bulb to blow out, or for the wind to be outside. That's a role that I heavily play in the team.
Right. When you go to these investigations to people's houses or businesses, you did mention you have to have a trust level with the client, and I understand that.
Absolutely.
But do they have to leave in order for you to do the investigation, or do they stick around, or how does that work from the client's standpoint?
Yeah, that's a great question. And again, it all depends. Our job, we have police officers, we have lawyers, there's doctors, there's scientists, there's housewives, there are accountants, there are construction workers. We have the whole gambit that does paranormal investigations. So many teams have many different people to pull from. We are very, very, very concerned with professionalism. Our name and our reputation means everything. And as you well know, a reputation is hard to build, and it's very easy to lose. So we spend a lot of time explaining to the clients who will be there, what we will be doing. We set ground rules as to what they will not allow and they will allow. Sometimes the client needs to be involved in an investigation if there is something occurring to the client or with the client specifically, not necessarily just in the home or the business. So again, you're absolutely right. Trust is incredibly important. We pride ourselves on being as professional as is possible in any given situation. We do not ever in any situation do anything that the client does not allow. But again, we're there to do something for them. So there has been times where the house is the issue, not the client. And we'll say, may we have your home for 5 hours? And most of the times they're at a point where they're like, absolutely, do what you need to do.
Yeah. And from a business standpoint, and just thinking, as one of the people in your business or, in your organization, do you guys have some type of insurance to protect you from any damage to the home or the business?
We do. We have liability waivers that we sign, and we have the client sign before we go in. Of course, let's be really honest. We are human beings. We are fallible, just as the client is a human being and the client is fallible. If we break a vase, we have a liability waiver that the client has to sign, just as if they would break a piece of our equipment that's worth, $700, $800, $900.
Yeah.
There has to be that legality involved because it is truly a transaction. It is a contract. We are providing a service. Now, something that needs to be understood is we never charge any money for what we do.
Oh,
we
okay.
do not believe in that. No, absolutely not. These are people and that need help. And we happen to be the people that do this all the time. So we are around this all the time. We're constantly reading about it. We're going to, I was just at a wonderful conference called down in, oh my gosh, what was it? Not Brooksville. I'm sorry, I can't remember the name, but it's the PIA, Paranormal Investigate. I just noticed PIA. It's a phenomenal conference here in Florida that occurs every year, where a lot of the Florida investigative teams get together and we share experiences. We talk about equipment. A dear friend of Skyway Paranormal runs a shop up outside of Orlando called Ghost Stop, and he just made his debut on Taps on Ghost Hunters.
Yes,
Sean Porter. So we talked to him. There's a whole other, I guess how would you call it, medium out there for people to get together. There are conferences. There's a conference called Wasabi Con coming up on November 2nd that we will be at also. And again, it's a chance to gather and to meet and talk to like-minded people, but people that are also making strides in investigation, people that have different techniques, people that are using new equipment. Sean Porter from Ghost Stop and Paul Bradford, who was on Ghost Hunters International, these guys are great. They develop their own equipment all the time, and Skyway Paranormal also develops their own equipment. We always find a problem, and Rusty, our tech manager, finds a way to solve that problem. I'll give you an example. I have a full spectrum camera that I use, and when we're on investigations, because we are investigating in the dark, and I don't get enough light out of this infrared camera light source that I have. Mm-hmm. So our tech manager, Rusty, is developing a bigger, better IR light for me, so I can get better pictures off my camera. And it's really trial and error with the tech end of things. And they say a necessity is the mother of invention. And in the paranormal community, that is an absolute true statement.
Absolutely. Now, for people that live in this area, in the Tampa Bay, Florida area, if they were interested in getting to go to one of those seminars or whatever, how can they get that information? How can they find it?
Well, there's many, many different ways. I can tell you right now that you can go on the website PSI, just type in PSI, Florida. There's another wonderful event that occurs every year, which is called Paranormal Kicks Cancer, which is where investigators get together and they raise money for Boot Camp, which is a children's cancer research foundation. There are conventions that occur. There's one this weekend, which is called Spooky Empire, I think, which is a lot of fun, and it has a lot to do with Halloween. But there are people there that have booths set up that that can answer any questions. And just Google Paranormal Investigations of Florida. Certainly, if you get in touch with us through the Meetup group, we're happy to let you know anything that's going on. And again, the information we gave earlier with the case manager at skywayparanormal.com, you certainly can email that, and we will get back to you and let you know if there's any information, and we'll put it up on our website if anything really cool and interesting is coming up.
Wonderful. Now, the tools that you guys use for investigations, what are the more used tools that you would show up with for, investigations?
Right. Sure. There's sort of the, what do they call it, the doctor's bag for paranormal investigators?
Yeah, yes, that's what I'm trying to say.
Yes, exactly. There are certain pieces of equipment that everyone should have to investigate, and there are two. And it's a camera and a recorder. Those are the two absolutes, without a doubt. And obviously, in the way, cell phones are these days, the technology in cell phones, there's a recorder on that and there's a camera on that. So those are the minimum things you have to investigate. Number one, you want to be able to capture an anomaly, or you want to be able to photograph a room. And by the way, there's a technique for photographing too. I usually do 5 shots in a row. I don't move. I stand in one spot and I do click, 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 click. Do 5 shots in a row. And what I find interesting is every once in a while, one of those shots will be not like the others.
Really?
And
Wow.
that's what we're looking for. And the same with with using a digital voice recorder, or not even a digital voice recorder. We just started using the old school tape and cassette. Back in the day, back in the 40s and 50s, when things were just becoming in the paranormal field, necessity bred ways for people to hear spirits or hear ghosts. So that led to, cassettes and videos. I mean, I'm not saying that did, but I'm saying they became utilized then in that way. Back in the 70s was a great time for people to use and gain knowledge using those reel-to-reel, those old reel-to-reel, the big ones, to record. And that's where sort of the EVP, which is electronic voice phenomenon boom, really started in the late 60s, early 70s with the onset of that technology, being able to capture things that people maybe have heard but were not able to capture before. And now with the onset of digital technology, a digital recorder, you can download it within 30 seconds and be listening to it back in a WAV file. I mean, it's just incredible, the technology that's available to us. So those are the two main things. There's also other things that we use. Excuse me. One of the meters is called a K2 meter, which reads electromagnetic field. There's also my new favorite right now, which is called a REM pod, which basically does the same as a K2 meter, except it's got these really neat lights that light up around it, and it's got a antenna in the middle. So any energy source that gets close to that antenna will make those lights go off. We also use laser grids. When we go into places where there's been reports of full-bodied apparitions and people seeing shadow people, we will oftentimes set up a laser grid and down long hallways and see if anything passes through that, always with a camera set up on that laser grid to capture something. We use a DVR system, which is four different cameras set up in 4 different places, and we'll have somebody at Command Central or Command Post, or Command sounds very official, but it's really just a place that somebody sits. While there's investigators in the home, they're sitting watching the monitors and watching these cameras and recording anything. It's all being recorded and putting down timestamps for anything that may occur. There is, there's so much equipment. There is, we could spend like 2 hours just on equipment.
Wow. Yeah.
It goes on, and people are very practical and ingenious, and new stuff is being developed all the time. GoPro cameras are now being changed over to full spectrum, so you can see in that full spectrum of light in the dark to capture things. I mean, if there's a piece of equipment, somebody is finding a way to utilize it for our purposes.
Well, you already mentioned a few of the questions I was going to ask you. I was going to ask you about EVPs and K2 meters and laser grid. But on the EVP, electronic voice phenomenon, you sent me a couple of clips that we could all enjoy. Would you mind explaining the first clip and what we're going to hear?
Sure, I have no problem with that. I believe the first clip is actually the most recent clip. That is we were at the Peninsula Inn and Spa. We were doing an investigation. I was in one of the rooms. I won't mention the room. And we started a EVP session. And as I was just getting ready, I'm setting up, and you'll hear me say, okay.
So, Kimberly, after you say okay, what is it that we exactly hear on the EVP?
If you listen closely, there's a male voice that says, I'm still here.
Got it. And everyone, here is clip number 1 that we're going to let you listen to.
Is it working? Okay.
Interesting. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
yeah. And the interesting part about this is, what is the difference between an EVP and a disembodied voice? Is an EVP, we don't hear it. We only hear it after the fact. We hear it in review when we're reviewing our evidence. A disembodied voice is something that we can hear in the moment. You'll hear a groan, or you'll hear a whistle, or you'll hear a tapping, or you'll hear a voice or people talking. And that can also be captured on the digital recorder, but that doesn't make it an EVP. An EVP is very specific to being recorded and the investigators at the time not hearing it.
So, Kimberly, I'm sorry, I keep calling you Kim. I hope that's okay.
No, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
On the second clip that we're going to play now, explain that clip, set it up for us so that everyone can enjoy it, and let us know what we're about to hear.
Absolutely. I was at a place in Batavia, New York, called Rolling Hills Asylum, and it is an unbelievable place. It is truly a closed-down, abandoned asylum. You can't get any more perfect for me to go to than this place. Well, this was in May of this year, and I had taken the trek up to Batavia, New York. And what's happening in this moment is you'll hear people talking, and you'll hear it's 3 o'clock in the morning, by the way, just to let you know when this everybody's tired. We've been investigating since 7 o'clock that evening. Mm-hmm. You'll hear a voice that sounds like a little girl. There's a melody. Why I love EVPs so much and why I got into investigating is anybody could say to me, "Did you hear this?" And I could say, "I heard it, but I wasn't there, so I didn't know what the circumstances surrounding it was." Well, I was there, and it was me, and I know no one was singing.
Here's clip number 2 for everyone to listen to. Right.
So that when I played that back, I had to listen to that one a couple hundred times because that shocked me a little bit.
You mentioned to me that you use trigger objects. Explain what a trigger object is and what do you use and why do you use one?
You know, it goes to the age-old question: is there life after death? And if there is, and this is what we're looking for proof of that. People are attached to things. People have things that they covet and they love. One of the best EVPs that I heard was using a trigger object, which was this teddy bear was set out in this home here in Florida. And it was a very old home. It was from the 1900s. And supposedly a young girl had been, about a 9-year-old girl supposedly had been killed in an accident at this home. So someone had set a teddy bear out, and there was a response to that teddy bear. An investigator was asking a question. Do you like playing with teddy bears, or did you have a teddy bear when you were a little girl? And a little voice, I don't have that to show you, but a little voice comes back and says, "I love teddy bears." And you think to yourself, you can't, there's no little children investigating here with us, and you're using a trigger object specifically to this age range. And when you get a response like that, that's what the trigger object is for. And trigger objects can be something as simple as someone's shirt. Someone passes away, and it might have been their favorite team, and they always wore that sweatshirt every time that team played, and they watched TV, and that may be a way to get a response. People are attached to books. People are attached to their favorite chair. Anything can be a trigger object. And we like to gain that. Oh, by the way, just to let you know, we did a little research, and an 8-year-old girl did pass away in that home of a tragic accident, just as a follow-up on that.
Wow.
So what we tend to do is we look around and we see what the client wants, number one, what we're dealing with, number two. We do research into the home. I like having information. I try to go in with a very, very, very open mind. I'm a human like everybody else, but I want information to know, to lead me to what questions I may have to ask, to see some names of some people that may have passed in the home or at the business, to maybe clue in and say, hey, Miss Amanda, are you here? Is this you? I like that information. So research is a big part of it too. And in that research, often you'll find that there was had once been a daycare, or had once been a boys' school, a boarding home for wayward children. You find these things, and you bring things according. I'm not going to bring a race car to a building from 1900. I might bring jacks, a ball and jacks or marbles. And of course, a trigger object like a ball is always fantastic. There's always the possibility that all kids love to play with balls, even, bouncing them or kicking them around. Even adults like to play with jacks or will try to manipulate an object. That's what we're looking for. We're looking for a response that triggers anything that we may be bringing. But it's so varied that you never quite know what it's going to be. So we just do our research, and we do what we think is right. And again, it's trial and error. This is not even a science. It's less than a perfect science. It's us trying to find answers and qualify them and quantify them and get empirical evidence and use the scientific method as much as possible. But it's very difficult because you can't have a perfectly contained way of conducting an experiment, but we still try. We still do the best we possibly can with what we have.
Yeah. Out of all the investigations, which investigation stands out?
Well, I have to tell you, I've mentioned it before. So far for me, there's two. Rolling Hills Asylum is a big standout for me. The building is 59,000 square foot. And you know that hundreds, if not thousands and thousands of people have passed through there. At one point, it was used as a tuberculosis ward. I mean, you know that it has a place that the bodies were kept. I mean, it is a truly ominous, creepy place. But that's the kind of places that we like, are ominous and creepy. When we want to go, have some fun.
Absolutely, yeah.
But another investigation that occurred was probably the very, very first time I ever sat down and spoke with a client. That was incredible for me. I was with another investigator from another team named Amy Dunn. She's from a team called EPS. She does client care. She's also a mental health care nurse. She's just fantastic. So I was doing a little training with her to learn more, even though I've done interviews in my capacity, in my position. It's very interesting when you're talking to people when they're scared and when they're having problems. So this particular case stood out to me because the client had called. They had already done their phone interview. This was now the face-to-face interview. They had decided to go to the house because children were involved. And sitting down with the client and asking them questions, you really get a sense of something that's happening with this person. And that left me with an incredible sense of what we do is so important. You're there not only to find proof for them or discount or debunk, but you're there to make them feel better. We always keep in the back of our mind, they have to stay here. We get to go home. And so we're very, very careful in a home, especially where children are. We are very, very careful. There's no provoking. We are not stirring anything up. We are there to do an absolute clean investigation to gain information for this client. And I think that's why that one stands out for me, because it was the first time I talked to someone face-to-face that was having paranormal issues.
Yeah. During your investigations, have you ever been afraid of being harmed?
No, I haven't. I have to be really honest with you. I think, in my own personal opinion, where it stands right now, and this is the beauty of investigating, and this is the beauty of life as it is we gain more knowledge and we can always change our opinion or gain more information to strengthen our opinion. I believe that if there is life after death, if we do go on, then I truly believe that we were the same person here as we are over there. If you were good here, you're probably good over there. If you weren't good here, you're probably not good over there. I have never heard of any case in the world where anyone has been killed by a ghost.
Yeah.
So I go in with a very skeptical but open mind. And part of what we do is we will ask them, we'll say, please, use our energy if you'd like to touch us. Sometimes you'll get scratched. Sometimes you'll get pushed. But you can't automatically assume that it's negative, that it's something negative, because this may be the way that they were able to use the energy to communicate. Again, not everybody is of the same level academically, therefore not everyone would be of the same level on the other side either. So maybe one really smart person who's passed understands how to manipulate a light. Maybe person doesn't. Maybe the best they can do is try to touch you. So we take that all with a grain of salt. There are times where you get that, I call it the hinky feeling, where everything is fine, and then all of a sudden the room gets more dense, it gets thicker, it gets heavier. The hairs on the back of your neck and on your arms start to stand up, and that's when you start really paying attention, because your body, which is your best instrument, is starting to tell you something. And of course, as we're humans, we're fallible. We've all seen scary movies and hid under the covers and put our hands over our eyes. That can affect us just as much, but what we try to do is we train ourselves to not be fearful. We train ourselves that if we hear something, we stop. We don't talk, we listen. We train ourselves to not run. We train ourselves to not jump. It's very, very important that we start to train ourselves as investigators to do our best possible job. So I don't ever feel in fear of being harmed. As a matter of fact, our team lead, Tom, makes fun of me because he goes, who's going to go into the creepy basement? He's like, Kimberly. Because I'm like, I raised my hand first. I'm like, I'll go.
Really?
I have no problem with it. Yeah, I mean, I don't feel they're out there to harm us. And if they are, then I'll find out. And that'll be great evidence.
Wow. Yeah, so has a ghost or an entity ever followed you home?
No, they haven't. And again, I'm not a sensitive. I'm not an empath. But I hedge my bets. I'm still a smart kid.
Yeah.
So I hedge my bets a little bit. And I haven't proven that they are there. I'm certainly looking for it. But I do take precautions. What I do is after I finish an investigation, I usually stand near my vehicle, or I'll stand by myself for a few minutes, and I will say, thank you for your time. I'm cutting any cord of energy that may be attached to me. I'm cutting it. I'm leaving you here, and I state openly, you're not allowed to follow me. You're not allowed to go where I reside, and you're not allowed to go anywhere that I know resides. You're not allowed to follow my family. As soon as I make this right-hand turn, this is once I'm in the car, I keep saying it, once I make this right-hand turn, you are no longer allowed in my vehicle. And I just do that. I know it sounds silly, but it's one of those things that when you've heard enough and when you've seen a few things, you go, well, maybe there's something to that. I'm going to do that.
Absolutely.
I'm going to do that.
No, and I do believe that you have to do that. You do have to be careful and protect yourself. So when you come in contact with paranormal activity, are the ghosts evil entities or just misguided souls, or what are your thoughts on that?
Do you know what? That's the $8 billion question. It honestly is. A lot of it has to do with your ideological background. It really does, and your religious background of how you perceive things. You know, if you believe in good, then you probably believe in evil. I am certainly in no position to say that there isn't anything bad out there. I've felt things that aren't right. And you know, just as an adult and just as living your life, you know when something is not quite right. It's a really tough question. It depends on who you ask is really my honest answer. I feel that there are positives and that there are negatives. And I'm not going to give anything a name, because I don't want to give anything power. But I believe there's good and I believe there's bad. Skyway Paranormal is, I should say, fortunately, we are friends with Bishop James Long, who does exorcisms and things like that. And unfortunately, this is the unfortunate part, he was talking and saying that there has been an increase that the Catholic Church has received for people requesting the church to come out and perform rites. So I don't know if it's sociological. I don't know if it's a sign of the times. I don't know. I don't have those answers, and that's why we investigate to find those things out. You know, there's definitely an increase in what I would call negative activity, and that's okay. I'm out there to find that too. That's my job, is to find it one way or another.
Again, this is Tony Valen, host of Healing from Within. You can contact me, Tony@TonyValen.com. Visit our website, healingfromwithin.net. Follow us on Twitter @TVHFW. We're talking to our guest, Kimberly Lewis, from the Meetup Paranormal Group, Paranormal Science Investigations of Florida, or P.S.Paul SI. Kimberly is one of the lead investigators in the well-known paranormal group Skyway Paranormal. You can learn more about PSI by going to meetup.com/paranormal science investigations, or you can email Kimberly, casemanager@skywayparanormal.com. Like Skyway Paranormal on Facebook and follow Skyway Paranormal on Twitter @SkywayPara. Now, Kimberly, you personally, or if you want, you can answer for the company. Do you believe in a higher power or in evil?
And I'm going to tell you why that is a difficult question to answer, not for me. I could answer that question easily.
Okay.
What I would like to say is we don't want to put ourselves out there as a religious group. There are definitely religious aspects of what we do, if anyone requests it. There are people that are Catholics, and there are people in our group that are Jewish. You know, you see what I'm saying? But I think it's more important, the client is what's important. It's what the client's needs are, that we find what they need. If they're Catholic, we will have someone there for them from our group that is of that. Jewish, I mean, whatever their belief system is, oftentimes we need to work with that to help them and to help us achieve our goals. Sometimes people will ask for a house cleansing. We have the ability to do that. Somebody might ask for a house blessing from a Catholic priest. We can do that. As I stated before, I believe in good and I believe in bad. I think that answers that question right there.
Yeah.
And I just don't want to put it out there that we are just a religious base. Certainly religion is an aspect of what we do. There are great believers in our group in their faith, and there are people that are more practitioners, and I'm not talking anything crazy. I'm just talking people that are maybe not practicing their faith right now.
Yeah.
But I think everybody in our group has a belief system that is good. There is nothing negative, nor would it be allowed in our group. It is based in love and light and truth and honesty and respect and kindness, professionalism. It's important. We don't want to push anybody away from them feeling like they can't come to us. So that's why I'm being a little hinky about the question. I don't want anybody feeling like, well, they just do Catholic stuff. Well, no, we don't. We're willing to help you. We're helping you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what's important for us. Our whole reason for being is twofold. Number one is to help who needs help. That's the number one reason why we exist. The second reason is to gain information, gain experience, get provable information that we can show someone, learn ourselves. That's the second reason. But the first absolute reason is for someone in trouble, we are there to provide assistance. That's our job. That is absolutely our job.
Perfect. And if someone wants to get a hold of you guys or contact you, it's the information I gave out to everyone, correct?
That's perfect. Yep, absolutely.
Is there a phone number you want to share, or do you just do it by email and by the websites?
We do it by email to begin with. That way we avoid phone calls at 4 o'clock in the morning, but we do check emails at 4 o'clock in the morning. Don't think just because we can't get a hold of us by phone, we're checking that email constantly. And we get great traffic through there. And oftentimes people will just write that email address and say, hey, there's a picture that I want you to look at. Tell me what you see. Or I have this recording. I would like for you guys to give me your opinion on it. Can you tell me, I have this going on in my house. I really don't want a team, but can you give me some ideas of what it may be? And we will answer all of those questions. And like I said before, we're very, very good at getting back to you within 24 to 48 hours.
Now, not asking in a disrespectful way, but just for information, how does your family or your friends feel about the work that you do?
I think that is a fantastic question, and no disrespect taken whatsoever. I think it's a terrific question, and I can answer it this way. My husband is a lieutenant colonel in the military. He is a very sound, strong, quiet guy. My daughter is 12 years old, and she's very fun and full of life and has a great time. When I told them, well, my husband, who I've been married to for 19 years, has known that I've been interested in this all along. My daughter, as only a 12-year-old can say, thinks it's cool.
Right.
She thinks it's cool.
Oh.
My husband doesn't wish to participate in this, but what he does is he supports me in everything that I do. He's a phenomenal individual, and I'm very lucky to have the 19 years that we've had. He's been supportive in everything that I've done throughout my life, and this is one of those things. And so I say, I'm going on an investigation. He goes, okay, we're having movie night tonight. I go, all right, sounds good. And the second part of that is when my friends find out, I'm going to tell you the honest to goodness answer. People are fascinated.
Yeah.
You don't meet paranormal investigators every day. There's not tons of us out there. Groups tend to be rather small. And to get on a group, you have to prove yourself, and you have to be asked to join. So when people hear that I get an opportunity, they want to find out about it. They want to hear my stories. They want to hear what can they hear an EVP? Can they see a photograph? And then the best part about that is I start to hear their stories. And the stories come from people that I may have known for, 5-6 years but never knew me in this particular capacity. They find out, and I'll get a phone call. Kimberly, I just found out that you do this. I got to tell you this time I was at my grandmother's house.
Is it? Yep, I know. I agree.
It's true. Tony, I truly believe, and this is why I'm in this, is we've all had experiences. I'd say 98% of us human beings have had some experience. If you don't want to call it paranormal, that's okay. Call it other than normal. And I believe that we all have some sort of shared experience, and to talk about it is cathartic, number one. But number two, you realize you're not alone. I got to tell you, the biggest question that we get is when somebody will email us, they'll open with, I know you think this is crazy, or what I'm about to say is crazy. And we certainly don't. We don't at all. That's why we're going to talk to you. We're going to talk to you and find out what's going on and where you're at. And, there are mean people out there that like to spoof and do that, and we weed them out real quickly. There's a lot of smart people on the team, like I said before, so we don't suffer fools. But if you truly need help, we're going to find you, and you can find us, and we're going to help you.
What are the future plans for Skyway Paranormal?
Our plans are to do exactly what we're doing. We want to continue to investigate. We want to continue to bring information to people. We want to be able to show them that thing that goes bump in the night that they've been afraid of since they moved into that brand new apartment really is the air conditioning from 1940 that's clicking on, and they need to talk to their, super. That's what we like to do. We like to help people gain solid knowledge and understand that you don't have to be afraid. You can live here, and you can live with this, and you can, if you need to, you can find a way, and we'll help you to try to get it to move on. our job, like I stated before, is to help. Skyway Paranormal is going to continue to do that. We are going to continue to help people. We are going to continue to gain information, gain expertise, become better at what we do. I'm very, very proud of the people that I work with. Like I told you earlier, I work in security at 2 U.S. embassies. And I can honestly say that the people on this team are tight, they're strong, they're smart, and they're good people. They are good people that want to learn and want to continue to grow, and more importantly, want to answer the questions that people have. You know, we don't want anybody living in fear. That's the worst thing you can possibly do, not want to go home.
And, you know, the one question that I didn't ask that I should have asked from the very beginning is, how long have you guys been doing this as a group?
Yeah, well, the group has been together for many, many years. Tom's going to kill me if I get this wrong. It's 2006 is when the group started, is when he started the team. And it was only 3 people. It was only 3 people on the team, and it was 3 like-minded, savvy people that had a belief to gain information and find proof that the paranormal is out there and thriving, and it just grew from there. And now we are 17 under the leadership of Tom Watchman, and you know, the team is big for a team. The team's closed right now, and there's been people that have asked Tom recently, within the last few months, if they can join, and it's a long process. It's not just, hey, I want to join a team. Okay, come on in. That's what the Meetup group is for. The Meetup group is to come and hang out and talk about stories. And at the Meetup group, we share evidence, and we bring in speakers to talk about the paranormal. We talk about equipment. So that's what that Meetup group is for. This team is for the investigating and for the gaining of as much evidence as we can. So that's where we're going in the future. We're going to keep doing what we're doing. We're going to learn. We're going to grow. We're going to keep making equipment, testing equipment, doing experiments, and keep putting proofs forth that there's something out there.
Wonderful. Any final thoughts on information you shared with us?
I would just like to say thank you so much for the time, and I may see you on December 6th.
Yes, definitely. Most
definitely. Yes, I'm very much looking forward to that. There is going to be an investigation that I'm very grateful that you said that you would come on with us. I think you are going to have a wonderful time. And I think more importantly for you and in your capacity, you're going to have a chance to understand this from a different perspective, which is just going to give you more knowledge and more insight. And we just want to keep doing what we're doing the best we can. We want to stay safe, do it right, and we want to help. That's what we're here to do.
Well, thank you so much. Our thanks to Kimberly Lewis from the Meetup group Paranormal Science Investigations of Florida, or P as in Paul, PSI. Kimberly is one of the lead investigators in the well-known paranormal group Skyway Paranormal. You can learn more about PSI by going to meetup.com/paranormal science investigations. Or you can email Kimberly, casemanager@skywayparanormal.com, like Skyway Paranormal on Facebook, and follow Skyway Paranormal on Twitter @SkywayPara. You are listening to Healing from Within with Tony Valen here on Blog Talk Radio, airing Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central. Visit our website, healingfromwithin.net, or contact me directly, Tony@TonyValen.com. Please follow the show on Twitter @TVHFW. Tony Valen, Healing from Within. Thank you so much. Love and light from all of us here at Healing from Within.